Hi, everybody, and welcome. It's EdTech Chat and Chew, episode number 34. And this week we're talking math because the most coolest Pi Day ever is coming up around the corner. So we're going to talk about that today. I'm Diane Smokorowski, coming in to join you from Kansas. Always with me is Mike.
Hi, everyone.
And where are you from, Mike?
I'm from Pennsylvania still.
Still from Pennsylvania. And we have the amazing Joe.
Hello, from Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
Originally from El Paso.
Via El Paso. And, you know, not only is spring break coming up, boys, but we do have Pi Day. Mike, what is so cool about this Pi Day?
Well, I mean, you know, the Pi Day every year is fantastic, and I'm a big math guy, so, you know, I love any reason to celebrate math. But this year happens to be a super special Pi Day because not only can you celebrate on 3/14, you know, March 14th, because that's the first 3 digits of pi. But it's also 2015, so we can stretch it out a couple more digits. And if you go down to the second, we can actually celebrate at, let me see if I get this right, March 14th, 2015 at 9, I believe, 56 in the morning. I'm not sure about those last couple digits, but we can get it right down to the second and celebrate Pi second this year for the first time and only time this century.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And see, I'm a language arts girl, so I'll be like, someone just set an alarm on my phone, and then I'll cheer with you. Joe, were you a math guy in the classroom?
You know, I had to, since I taught science. It involves a lot of math, so I had to always, you know, get math involved. Yeah, I did use a lot of math. And then part of learning science, you have to learn math. I mean, it's just, yeah.
It goes together.
Yeah, they go hand in hand.
But
yeah, I agree, and not, to build on that also, I think, you know, too often we teach those two subjects disconnected from each other, and both subjects then lose the context that they should have. I really like when math and science are combined in a way. You know, the whole reason we invented mathematics and numbers is so that we can quantify, you know, problems that we were trying to solve. And science is the, you know, the subject of problem solving. You really, those two things need to go together.
Well, and you know, we always talk about that. You wouldn't want to say to anybody, you know, I don't do reading. You know, it's like I don't do social studies. I don't do eating. You know, but it's okay to say I don't do math. When
yeah,
really,
that's always kind of stuck with me. You know, it's not unusual to hear an elementary teacher say, you know, hey, I don't think I could pass an 8th grade math test, but you'd never hear an elementary, you know, teacher say, hey, I can't read on an 8th grade level. So, yeah, that's an issue for me.
And even though I come from language arts and struggle somewhat with some of the higher math, I did go clear through trig. You know, I did have some higher math in the days, so I do appreciate it. And here comes Micah. Hi,
Hey,
Micah.
Hi.
She's
I made it.
time. And Micah, we're just talking about why math is cool. And why is math cool to you?
Math is cool to me because it's a part of my everyday life. I literally use it for everything, whether I'm thinking about it or not.
It's just part of what we do. Hey, Mike, did you know that there's a math museum in New York City?
I do, and I haven't been there yet, but it is certainly on my list of things that I need to do next time I'm in New York. I believe it's the only one in the world, the only museum that's dedicated just to math. So, yeah, I'm excited about going there. And go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
They even have a trike there that instead of having round wheels, it has square wheels. And it actually goes along arcs as it travels around in circles. So, you know, who's to say you can't have a square wheel versus a round wheel?
That is neat. And I've seen that they've done some distance learning things, too, where they'll take students into their museum. But I have not been a part of that yet either. So
we may have to make a phone call.
I'd be for that.
Well, today we're going to be talking about some of our favorite math resources that we use with students. And Joe, you were actually going to share something that was shared via Karen. What was one of her apps?
Well, she was talking about that Photomat.
Mm-hmm.
And with this one is if you see printed math problems in a textbook, and you can use that app on the iPhone or iPad, whatever iOS device. I think they might even have it for Android. But you point at the problem, and it deciphers what's on the problem, and it gives you a step-by-step solution to the problem, which I think is pretty cool. but it only works on text. It doesn't work on handwritten problems. I tried it, and it just won't work. But it does work really well with printed math problems. Oh, and earlier, by the way, I was thinking about. I want to share this with you because Mike was like, "Yeah, they can't be separated, right?" And I've been watching the Mankind, the story of us, right? And so it talks about civilization, the birth of civilization, and so on. And so when people started harvesting, wheat and all this, the grains, whatever, they had to find a way to measure, right? Math came along, and then if you want to trade, then you have to learn how. So then math and language are tied in together because you have to be able to trade. And so at one point, all these different subjects were all one. So what happened?
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. I mean, as things get more complicated, I mean, you can even see it like how science has branched out into so many different subjects. As our knowledge base as humans grows, we start having to come up with these new subjects to kind of deal with all of this new knowledge that's coming up. That's an awesome point.
Most definitely. And it's interesting how things are intertwined. We're going to be doing the daylight savings change here in this next weekend. Everybody except for, Arizona. But we're all going to be changing here very soon. And the idea of even time zones were created so that you could do work longer in the day, and when things were being delivered from the farm to the manufacturing warehouse, whatever that may be, that all could arrive on time. Yeah. Everything is intertwined for certain. So that's a pretty cool one. Do you have any others, Joe?
And the other one I was going to mention is I know a lot of people are familiar with the MyScript calculator, right, where you can actually write problems on the screen with your finger and it solves them for you. That one's really cool. But there's also one called MathPad. And so that one, what it does is you actually do but this is for higher math where they involve all those crazy symbols. And so you draw out the problem, and it makes it into an image that you can actually export and bring into a worksheet and stuff like that. So if you don't have the programs to create those crazy symbols, you can use that to quickly make problems and then send them to let's say a PowerPoint or an Excel and create your worksheet. So that's a cool little app. I like that one because there's a gazillion math apps out there that can do single things, pretty cool, but one magical math app, I don't know.
But it's definitely an intuitive tool so that math teachers can, instead of having to find just the right HTML coding or whatever that may be to create an equation, it'll just kind of do it for them. I do like the easy button very much. Micah, thanks, Joe. Micah, what do you have to share?
Well, you mentioned maybe no magical math app, but I think maybe there is. And I think it's called Front Row. Front Row is actually an app and web-based, and it's frontrowed.com, all one word. And let me see if I can pull it up here for you. There it goes. Can you see it? Can you see it? No? Oh, dear.
I went to the website.
Sorry, guys.
Cool.
But
there we go.
Okay, so it's for K-8, and like I said, it's web-based, and you can use it on the iPad. And what I like about this is it helps teachers to differentiate math for their students. It can be used as an independent learning center, and you kind of take a pre-test for each of the strands. We've got geometry, we've got number sense, all kinds of different strands, and so they take this pre-test, and then it adapts to them. It takes them as high as they need to be, or if we're having some troubles, it kind of takes them back down a level. What's really cool, though, is that if they get something wrong, there's a little help video, so it kind of scaffolds their learning for them. So it's pretty slick. It's an adaptive math program, and it is free. We like free. Free's good.
Absolutely. Free is awesome. But that does look pretty awesome.
It is cool, and a lot of my teachers use it, like I said, for independent center time, and it also has some really cool printout options so you can see where all of your kiddos are or how long it took them on a certain level, and it's just very simplistic. Not a lot of bells and whistles, but I think that's okay for this kind of a thing. Another set of tools that I love for my teachers to use, these are actual apps. The other one was web-based. These have a few web-based as well, but these are from the Math Learning Center. And they're just virtual math manipulatives. And so I would have my kids, work out a problem on the number line, and they can take a screenshot and then app smash it with something else, like iMovie or 30 Hands or something like that. So they have a lot of great free apps for you to use and to smash with other apps. So pretty cool.
Love it. Mike, do you use those same tools?
No, actually, I was going to share a different math manipulative site. For years, even before apps were a thing, online there was the National Library of Virtual Manipulatives, which I believe was put together by a college out in Utah at the time. But now it's expanded, and it's just a huge resource of different math hands-on materials that aren't really hands-on. Kids are manipulating them online. So I've used that quite a bit, but I like Micah's site a lot. I've got a couple other sites that I'm going to share. Often, we tend to focus on elementary stuff here because I think for most of us, our background is either elementary or middle school. But I want to share something for high school teachers that are watching. So Desmos is a online graphing calculator that has some pretty cool features. So let me see if I can share my screen here. Pull that up. Okay, can you see that?
It's slowly popping in there.
Okay.
Getting there. But, Desmos really is a pretty amazing app. We've used it with Chromebooks as well, but what do you like about it?
I like that it's interactive. And so many times, with graphing calculators, kids can graph an equation, or but I love that you can add sliders into some of those equations. So here, I'm going to pull this up so we can take a look at the sliders here.
We're still not seeing the screen just quite yet, but
okay, let me. Okay, still not up. Oh wait, here we go. How's that? There yet?
Micah says we're good. I don't, but
okay.
You're good.
Okay. All right. So let's just enter an equation here. Y equals mx plus b is the one they suggest. Okay, and I can add some sliders into that. And now, as I slide those sliders, I can see how it changes the equation, which is kind of neat. Or I can actually animate this by clicking on the play button, and you can see as m changes, what the graph would change in real time. And you can get a lot more complex with this. There's other things that you can do with it, but I really like the interactivity of Desmos. One of the other ones that I wanted to show is GeoGebra. GeoGebra is, I've used this with elementary students, but I also think it has some great applications for high school kids. And basically it allows you to create different mathematical concepts on your device or website if you're using a desktop. And we've had a lot of success with that. You can import pictures into the background and have kids play with different shapes. It's a little bit more geometry-based. Desmos would be more for algebra and trig and calculus and more of the graphing. Different aspects, but both of them are fantastic apps that could work for high school teachers.
Awesome, thanks, Mike.
Yeah, sure.
And the one, I've got a couple of ideas, and then we have a global project. Actually, you have a global project you're going to share before we wrap up. But a couple of resources that came to mind, thanks to my good friends like Micah, was the idea of how you could use Skype to play mystery number for the little bitties, where one class has a number, the other one has a number, and they play the high-low game via Skype. And Stacy Ryan has actually done Kahoot games using Skype, where she'll build in several math equations, and then the students on both sides of the classes, via Skype, will try to solve the math problem. Then they punch in their number, what they think the answer is. Then, once they have determined what that is, then the students come up and bring their whiteboards on how they solved that problem up to the screen to actually teach one another. So it's more than just race to the finish. It's actually learning together, which I thought was a great use of that tool. And then I tagged into my favorite high school math teacher, Scott Keltner from Eudora High School, who is genius is the good way to put it all the way around when it comes to mathematics. And his passion is very much finding those real-world connections to math. And he says the two sites that he would recommend is one called yummymath.com. And Yummy Math is actually taking from third grade clear to high school real-world examples to the concepts they're learning in math. And right on their homepage today, they've got a whole new math problem associated with the Harry Potter series. Fantastic beasts and where to find them. And there's one for key lime pie, what makes a leap year. So it's always current events with story problems that you can use in your classroom. And again, it's tiered by grade level. So how fun is that? If you're doing a lot of things with Common Core, it'd be a great space to explore. That one, and he also recommended mathalicious.com. Try to say that 4 times, friends. But with Mathalicious, he's very similar to the Yummy Math. It is real-world connections to the mathematics that we're covering in class. And right now they have 111 lessons that are covering things from Xbox exponentials, runners, and even using McDonald's as part of a way of mathematics, the way it's being used. So he recommended both of those. And I have to send a shout out to Scott anyway. For those of you who follow us on EdTech Chattin' 2, his Twitter handle is @ScottKeltner. That's Keltner. And Scott is very good about taking concepts of math and then tweeting them out to real companies to get data back to his students. So not only can you find places online, but he's embracing Twitter in order to make those kinds of connections happen. So if you remember a few years ago when Felix Baumgarten was jumping from space, okay, his students from the classroom tweet were sending tweets out to Red Bull to help look at the data and see if they could predict when Felix would actually make it back to Earth, and doing that in real time. And that's just one example. He was looking at the Royals when we were going up for the World Series and tweeting that information out to the Royals back and forth of statistics. So he's always looking to bring the real world into his classroom. So I give a high five to Micah, 1 to Stacy Ryan, and 1 to Scott Keltner. But Mike, talk about your Pi Day project.
Yeah, so actually before I talk, we have a really incredible Pi Day collaboration that's going to be worldwide, that everyone that has kids from grades K through 12 can participate in. But before we do that, there's 2 more things that I want to share real quick. One of them is a really great app for iPads or iPhones. If you've got elementary kids, you know, that are learning math and you want to give them something to help them really understand instead of just be able to do mathematics. I love Math Doodles, which is a couple different games that you can download. And the other thing I want to share is, you know, we had a show a couple months ago about YouTube channels to subscribe to, and I don't know, it wasn't until today that I realized I didn't share this one, and it's one of my absolute favorite YouTube channels. Her name is Vi Hart, and I'm not sure how old she is, but she can't be more than like a high school or college student. And she puts together some amazing math videos. So if you've got a YouTube account, or you know you want to subscribe to a YouTube channel that's math-based and a lot of fun, and just will blow your mind with some of the different videos that she's got, Vi Hart, V-I, first name, last name Hart, H-A-R-T, is totally worth subscribing to. So with all of that aside, let's talk Pi Day and how you can get your class involved. So up on Skype in the Classroom, I put a website, and we will share this out on our EdTech Chattin' 2 Facebook page. I've already tweeted it out and shared it on my Facebook page this morning. We have a worldwide Pi Day collaboration. And all you need to do in order to get your students involved is find some circular objects for them to measure and give them some measuring tape or a ruler and some string. And what they need to do is find the diameter and the circumference of those circular objects and plug it into a Google form that we have embedded. That Google form will automatically populate a spreadsheet. So they'll just enter the diameter and the circumference. The spreadsheet will keep track of all the data from circles all over the world that kids are measuring. And it will find the circumference divided by the diameter, which is pi, for each one of those objects that your students measure. And we will keep track of all those hundreds or thousands of points of data. And then, if you'd like to participate, you can have a discussion. Everyone has access to the spreadsheet, so you'll see all the data. But if you'd like to participate, on the 13th of March, the day before Pi Day, since Pi Day is a Saturday, I am going to host a Skype call with up to 9 classrooms where we're going to take a look at that data and figure out what the best measure of central tendency to describe that data would be. So would you use the mean, median, or mode? Because one of the things I found when I was teaching mathematics is kids could identify what the mode of a set of data is, or how to find the average or mean, but they had no idea why they would do that, or when to use each of those different measures. And so this is a great opportunity with all of that data to take a look and say, okay, which of these measures best describes the data that we have there, and how come median is better or mode is better or whatever it happens to be. How come that's the better measure in this case? What makes the other ones not as good, and to have that kind of discussion. And I'm hoping to connect with a group of high school students, maybe some calculus students, who will run that call for me instead of me doing it. I mean, I could certainly do it, but I'd love to empower some students to do it. So that's a possibility. As of right now, I'm running it, but I'll see who I can steal.
That's awesome. And so what do you hope to measure for that particular day? Your number one choice. Is there a pie for you, or is there something else you like to measure?
Yeah, we for years have had students bring in pi, for us to measure because look at me, I like pie. It's so I'm real big on the chocolate peanut butter pies. Those are always excellent. Apple pie is fantastic, but as long as they can bring in a circular pie, that's cool. But last year we had classes that measured all kinds of different circular objects. Pizza would work well. I think Joe mentioned in our chat earlier that tortillas, right? They would be great. So whatever circular objects you want. It can be food, but it doesn't have to be.
The food sounds good because it's lunchtime.
Yes.
And what are you having for lunch today?
I brought a salad today. Nothing fancy or exceptional.
The salads are good. And Joe, what's for lunch today?
Actually, I already had my tortillas at Taco Bell.
Did you measure them, Joe?
No, it was too gooey.
And speaking of tortillas, by heart, she has the coolest video on how you can fold a tortilla.
I'm going to explore that for sure.
She is amazing. Yeah.
Awesome. It's awesome. Micah, what's for lunch?
Some homemade pot pie for this cold day.
Nice.
She's got the round object.
Oh, I do?
And I'm having bierox, which the amazing Bonnie made. And for those of you who are not from Kansas, that is it's a sweet bread, generally, that is filled with cabbage and ground beef and cheese, and it's pretty much happiness on a plate. So that's what we're having today. But until next time, we're excited that you joined us today, and we can't wait to see how many of you join in to the Global Project for Pi Day. So we'll see you next time on EdTech Chattin' 2.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.